You might think genius is loud, flashy, obvious. You imagine brilliant minds making headlines, dominating rooms, their ideas unstoppable and visible to everyone. But what if I told you the true genius rarely announces itself? Often, it hides quietly, in the corners of conversations, in subtle patterns of behavior, in ways only a few people notice. Some of the smartest minds in history never shouted their brilliance. They observed, they questioned, they moved in silence. You might be one of them without even realizing it. Today, we're going to explore 10 signs that indicate you might be secretly a genius that few notice. And as you listen, pay close attention. These aren't just traits. They're a window into how your mind works differently, how your brain processes the world in ways most people never see. Genius isn't just IQ. It's pattern recognition, emotional insight, creative problem solving, and the quiet drive to understand life at its core. Psychologists often talk about the difference between convergent thinking, solving problems logically, and divergent thinking, the ability to generate multiple solutions to a single problem. Most of us lean heavily on one. True geniuses often master both. They see connections others miss. They ask questions most people never even consider. And this often makes their brilliance invisible, because it doesn't always manifest in obvious achievements. So, how can you tell if you fall into this category? Let's break it down. Here are 10 signs you're secretly a genius that few notice. The first sign is intense curiosity. You are never satisfied with surface-level answers. A simple explanation doesn't satisfy you. You want to know the why behind the why. Psychologists call this epistemic curiosity, the drive to learn for the sake of understanding, not reward. Studies show that highly curious people are more likely to acquire knowledge across domains, which strengthens neural connections in the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for problem-solving and strategic thinking. Think about it this way. When someone says, "It is what it is," your mind immediately questions it. You're the person who asks, why is it what it is? Could it be different? How did we get here? This curiosity drives you to learn skills, understand concepts, and innovate in ways others don't. And while it may seem like a simple love for knowledge, in reality, it rewires your brain to recognize patterns and solve complex problems faster than average. A mini story. Imagine a child endlessly dismantling clocks to understand how they work. Adults might call it a phase, but that child is already building the neural patterns that make innovative thinking second nature. Your curiosity is more than interest, it's the engine of hidden genius. The second trait is an unconventional approach to problems. You don't follow standard solutions because they rarely satisfy you. Cognitive scientists call this divergent thinking. You generate multiple solutions, consider unusual angles, and embrace complexity. While others accept limitations, your mind thrives in ambiguity. Picture this: your team struggles with a project. Everyone suggests minor fixes. You offer an idea so different it initially feels risky. But it works. People might dismiss your idea at first because thinking outside the norm often looks impractical. But your ability to see hidden connections is exactly what makes you a genius in action. Practical example: Albert Einstein didn't start with equations. He imagined riding alongside light beams. That mental experiment, unconventional at the time, led to the theory of relativity. If your approach makes others pause or even doubt you, it could be a sign that your thinking operates on a higher, less visible plane. The third sign is an intense focus on interests. When you are passionate, you immerse completely. Psychologists describe this as flow, a state of deep focus where time disappears and productivity peaks. Flow activates the dopamine system, enhancing learning and skill retention. Geniuses spend years in such states, often unnoticed, because they are so absorbed in mastering their craft or solving complex ideas. You might have noticed this in yourself. Hours pass like minutes when you're working on something you love. You forget to check your phone, ignore distractions, and even skip meals. Most people see it as obsession, but it's actually the hallmark of a mind sharpening itself quietly. A story element. Consider the painter who spends an entire night perfecting a brushstroke that only they will see. To outsiders, it's insignificant, but within that focus lies genius, disciplined, patient, and internalized. You might not seek recognition, but your mind grows exponentially with each hour of deep focus. The fourth trait is noticing patterns that others miss. Your brain constantly connects dots. You pick up trends, behaviors, or anomalies that escape the average observer. Neuroscience shows that this pattern recognition relies on the anterior cingulate cortex and prefrontal cortex working in tandem, allowing you to detect inconsistencies and predict outcomes. For example, you might notice subtle shifts in people's behavior before a conflict arises. Or, when analyzing data, you detect correlations that seem invisible to colleagues. This isn't just observation, it's a refined skill. A cinematic scenario. Imagine a chess player who sees 2 moves ahead, while others plan 1. They make decisions that feel instinctual, but their mind has calculated probabilities in the background. Your subtle awareness in social interactions or complex tasks is a quiet genius at work. The fifth sign is a preference for solitude. Geniuses often need space to think. Solitude allows your brain to process complex ideas without distraction. Developmental psychologists note that introversion and deep thinking are correlated in highly intelligent individuals. Solitude fuels reflection, creativity, and problem-solving. This doesn't mean you dislike people, it means your brain requires space to consolidate information. You might feel drained after long social interactions, not because you dislike company, but because your mind is used to operating in deep focus. Mini-story. Consider Isaac Newton, who reportedly discovered gravity during periods of isolation. Your quiet moments could be doing the same work, constructing insights that few ever notice. Your solitude is not loneliness, it's incubation. The sixth trait is strong emotional insight. You understand people beyond what they say. Psychologists call this high emotional intelligence. You sense moods, intentions, and motivations without explicit cues. This allows you to navigate social dynamics subtly, influence outcomes, and predict behavior. You might notice how your friend is masking stress, or why a colleague avoids a particular task. This perception isn't casual, it's subconscious analysis, a signature of a highly attuned mind. Example. Imagine leading a team meeting and realizing tension exists before anyone speaks. You address the concern quietly, avoiding conflict and enhancing collaboration. Others may not notice your subtle intervention, but it reflects genius-level social insight. The seventh sign is creative problem-solving under pressure. When situations escalate, most people panic. You, however, remain calm, scanning multiple solutions almost automatically. Neuroscientists attribute this to the prefrontal cortex regulating the amygdala, controlling fear and emotional hijack, allowing rational, strategic thinking under stress. Think of it like this: others see chaos, you see opportunity. The more complex or high stakes the situation, the more your mind shines. Mini-story. Imagine a pilot navigating a sudden storm. While passengers panic, the pilot assesses every instrument, predicts turbulence patterns, and adjusts flight trajectory in real time. You may not fly planes, but your mind likely operates similarly in stressful intellectual or social scenarios, quietly solving problems no one else can. The eighth trait is an insatiable love for reading or learning. This goes beyond casual interest. You devour books, podcasts, articles, and lectures across multiple domains. This isn't mere hobby, it's cognitive expansion. Cross-domain learning strengthens neural plasticity, improves critical thinking, and allows you to combine concepts in original ways. You might notice your mind jumping between history, philosophy, science, and art, connecting ideas in ways others overlook. This breadth, coupled with depth, forms a foundation for innovative thinking. Story example. Leonardo da Vinci studied anatomy, engineering, and painting. Few appreciated his genius during his life because it manifested quietly, through accumulated knowledge. Your reading habits may function similarly, quietly building a reservoir of insights. The ninth sign is an unconventional sense of humor. You see irony, contradictions, and absurdities that others often miss. Psychologists link this to higher cognitive complexity, the ability to hold multiple, even conflicting, ideas simultaneously. Your humor isn't random, it's a window into pattern recognition, abstract thinking, and emotional intelligence. You might laugh at subtle jokes, notice contradictions in conversations, or create humor that requires insight to appreciate. While others might dismiss it as odd, it's an indication that your brain is processing multiple layers of reality at once. Scenario: consider a comedian who crafts jokes based on complex societal observations. Only a few understand the depth, but it resonates profoundly with those who do. Your humor functions in the same way a marker of a mind thinking beyond surface-level reality. The 10th trait is a tendency to challenge norms quietly. You rarely accept the world as it is, but unlike loud rebels, you question subtly, systematically. Cognitive scientists link this to critical thinking and metacognition, the ability to think about your thinking. You analyze assumptions, detect biases, and propose alternative frameworks, often without drawing attention. This might look like asking questions no one else dares, or proposing solutions that seem radical but are grounded in logic and observation. While others might follow the status quo, you quietly explore the edges of possibility. Mini-story: consider someone in a corporate environment suggesting a new workflow that seems unconventional. Management might initially resist, but the system eventually increases efficiency. Few notice that it was your insight, your hidden genius, making the difference. When you look across these traits: curiosity, unconventional problem-solving, deep focus, pattern recognition, solitude, emotional insight, calm under pressure, learning obsession, subtle humor, and quiet norm challenging, you see a pattern. Genius doesn't need to be flashy. It thrives in silence, reflection, and subtlety. It manifests in ways that may not win applause, but profoundly impact reality, relationships, and knowledge. Being secretly brilliant is not about external validation. It's about how you perceive the world, process information, and create insights that others miss. Most genius is invisible because it lives in thought, observation, and quiet action. And often, those who possess it are the first to underestimate themselves. So, if you recognized yourself in these traits, remember this: your mind is operating differently, and that difference is your strength. It's not about proving it to others. It's about using it wisely, thoughtfully, and intentionally. The world might not notice at first, but over time, your insight, creativity, and subtle influence can reshape ideas, systems, and even the lives of those around you. Take a moment and reflect on your own life. Where have you quietly solved problems that others struggled with? Where have you noticed patterns or made decisions based on subtle insights? Where has your curiosity driven you deeper than anyone expected? These are the moments that define genius: not accolades, not attention, but understanding, creativity, and subtle mastery. Remember, being secretly brilliant is not a burden. It's an opportunity, an invitation to explore, innovate, and live a life guided by curiosity, insight, and intentional action. Embrace it, cultivate it, and let your mind shape reality in ways others might never see. But the impact will always be there. Because true genius is not measured by visibility. It is measured by depth, understanding, and the quiet power to see what others cannot. You might be one of those minds, quietly reshaping the world in ways only you understand. And that, in itself, is extraordinary.